Dragons in the Waters by Madeleine L'Engle, Chapter 7, The Hearse. Dr. O'Keefe and Charles hurried to the cabin and stood on the threshold, silently looking at the empty packing case. Dr. O'Keefe said, "You were quite right not to touch anything. We must tell Mr. Fair at once." He strode along the passage, the others hurrying behind him to Mr. Fair's cabin. It was empty. "We'll try the salon." Mr. Theo smiled at them as they came in. He touched his music manuscript. "It's quite warm in here this morning, but I'm afraid that these loose pages might blow overboard." "Best not to run the risk," Dr. O'Keefe agreed. "Seen Mr. Fair?" "No, but he's seldom sociable in the morning." Mr. Theo turned back to his music. "The promenade deck, then," Dr. O'Keefe said. As they left the salon, they met Mynheer Boone in the foyer. Dr. O'Keefe asked him, "Have you seen Mr. Fair recently?" "Not since breakfast." "But you found the key to the portrait cabin in his crossword puzzle," Polly said. "What are you talking about, Miss Polly? I found no key." Polly looked at Simon and Geraldo in consternation. "Come," Dr. O'Keefe said, and led them to the promenade deck. "Seen Mr. Fair anywhere around?" he asked casually of the Smiths, who were sunning in the deck chairs. "Not since breakfast," Mr. Smith said. "How about you, Patty?" "I haven't seen him since breakfast either. Maybe he's checking on his portrait." "Quite possibly," Dr. O'Keefe said dryly, and turned to climb the steps to the boat deck, where Dr. Wordsworth and Dr. Eisenstein were briskly taking their morning constitutional. In a calm, unemphatic voice, he asked, "We're wondering if you've seen Mr. Fair." Hardly interrupting their stride, the two professors assured him that they had not. Dr. O'Keefe said, We've tried all the likely places. I'd better go to the captain and tell him about the portrait. Wait for me in the cabin." "I have work to do, please, sir," Geraldo said. "It is time for me to set up for lunch. Jan will need me." "I would prefer you to stay with my children and Simon, Geraldo. Jan can do it without you for once. I'll explain to him." "Please, Daddy," Polly said, "do we have to wait in the cabin? It's so terribly hot. Couldn't we wait for you in the dragon's lair? We can stay in the shade and we'll get the breeze." It was indeed hot. Dr. O'Keefe wiped the back of his hand across his brow. "All right, but go there directly and immediately, and do not leave until I come for you. I want to know exactly where you are." "He's worried," Polly thought, "more worried than he wants us to know." "Sir," Simon said, "who would steal the portrait?" "And on a small ship," Polly said, "with no place to hide it. It's a big portrait. It's absolutely mad, isn't it, Daddy?" It's very strange. Please go to the dragon's lair now and wait for me." Simon looked white and strained. As they started down the stairs to the lower deck, he said, "I'm afraid." Geraldo spoke reassuringly. "We are with you, and we will not leave you. We know that you love the portrait of Bolivar, that you love it much more than Mr. Fair does." Polly took Simon's ice-cold hand. "Daddy'll get it back, Simon. After all, it's got to be on the ship." Her grip was firm. "I wish you didn't have to sleep in the cabin with Cousin Forsyth, but I don't think anybody can hurt you there unless—" "What? You don't think Cousin Forsyth, you don't think he had anything to do with the forklift? It was an accident. Anyhow, wasn't he on the Orion taking care of the portrait? Or last night?" Charles said, "If only we could begin to guess who the man was." Geraldo frowned. "It is more difficult because there are many men on the ship who might have been on the boat deck, from your father and the captain to Mynheer Boone and Olaf Koster. If he had been heavy, like Baron Rumiche, or very short, like the radio officer, or a string bean, like the cook. I keep trying to recall exactly what he looked like, and all I can see is a shadowy form in a dark winter uniform, who might have been one of many people. The only thing which has come to my mind, and about this I am only guessing, is that he was slow in his movements until I caught his arm, and then he moved like lightning. The slowness makes me think that perhaps he was reluctant, and perhaps he was glad to be caught, but this is only a guess." Simon's heart was pounding with panic. He tripped over the high sill. "Careful," Polly warned, leading him through the blazing sunlight, strong and life-giving. The breeze kept the heat from being oppressive, and the beauty of the day gave her a sense of reassurance. There had to be some kind of rational explanation for all the irrational events of the last few days. They walked silently around kegs and boxes, around the station wagon, approached the hearse with the bullet hole in the windshield. Suddenly, Polly stopped. What's the matter? What's the matter? Simon asked nervously. The hearse, she whispered. The doors are open. In the back, look, they've never been opened before. No, the hearse had always been sealed tight as a tomb, but now the double back doors were slightly ajar. Geraldo, Polly whispered. Her hand was as cold as Simon's, and she clutched to get comfort as much as to give it. Geraldo, followed by Charles, went up to the hearse and opened the doors wide. Walking slowly, pulling back, but somehow managing to go forward, Polly and Simon followed them. The sunlight was so brilliant that it was difficult to see into the shadows within the hearse. Simon, Polly whispered. It seemed that her voice had vanished. There was someone in the hearse. Someone lying there. Cousin Forsyth. And that is the end of chapter 7.